In this video, we are going to study First Flight book, class 10th, chapter 2nd, Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin. On his background, on his religion, people must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. When human gets worth, they don't know how to hate other person related to background, caste, religion. People teach them how to hate. If they teach how to hate other person, so they can teach how to love also, because when people get worth, they don't know anything, or we can say when they get birth, that time they are neuter. But if they can taught hate, so they can teach love also, because love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Even in the grimmest times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards. Already we have studied about Nelson Mandela, that Nelson Mandela was put in a prison for 30 years. That time Mandela would see a pinch of humanity and kindness in one of the guards, and that was enough to keep him going. Perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. Perhaps that was only a few seconds, but it kept me going on. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. Here Nelson Mandela is telling that man's goodness is a flame that can be hid. We can hide that, but be never extinguished. It means we never stop burning. He believes that goodness in human beings can be suppressed but never eliminated. In life, every man has twin obligations, obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children, and he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country. Here the word obligations means a duty or a commitment. Nelson Mandela is telling that every human being has its responsibility towards the family and as well as the society. Every person have two obligations in his life, one to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children, and he has an obligation to his people, and another to his community or his country. Here that obligation means we can say duty. In a civil and human society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. Human can do his duty according to his will and ability. He can perform his both duty. There is no problem while performing such duties. We are doing our duty like in India. There is no problem while doing our duty in India. In a simple way, we can say we are able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities in India. There is no problem while doing such duties. It was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of those obligations. Here that Nelson Mandela is telling that it is almost impossible for a man of my birth. It means who have got a birth in the South Africa like me, like a black people. It is very difficult to perform both duty, and it is very difficult to fulfill both of those obligations in South Africa. A man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. A word isolated means alone or apart from other people or things. In South Africa, if such a person is doing his duty or such obligations related to his country or his family, he have to be punished and isolated from his family, and he have to live as a separate life from his society. In South Africa, a man who was tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live a life apart. In South Africa, if a black people try to fulfill his duty to his people and to his family, and that person have to be live apart from his people and his family and home. So Nelson Mandela is telling that it is very difficult for my people like a black people in South Africa to perform such duties and obligations. If they are trying to do such obligations or such duty, then they have to live a life apart from his family, from his people, from their society. A twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. A word twilight means the time after the sun has set and before it gets completely dark. The word rebellion means an occasions when someone of the people in a country try to change the government using violence. If a person is trying to do such obligations or his duty to his family or to his people, that people have to be live to be in darkness, and such person have to be live secrecy life, and such person is called as a rebellion because that people is stand against the South African government. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband, thus keeping them from fulfilling both responsibilities. In the beginning, Mandela did not put his people over his family. Nelson Mandela is telling that first of all, I choose my family to fulfill my duty and obligations regarding my family. But it was only later when he realized that in order to be there for his people, he was compromising his duties towards his own family. First of all, he chose his family, then afterward, his country. As a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. And after that he served his country. I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free, free in every way that I could know, free to run in the fields near my mother's hut. Here, Nelson Mandela is telling that when I got birth, that time I was thinking that I am free in every type, free to run near my mother hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village. And he was thinking, I am free to swim in the clear river that passes near my village, free to roast millies. Millies means here as we can get the popcorn. No, you can see in image also. Under the stars and ride the broad back of slow moving bulls. Here Nelson Mandela is telling that free to roast millies. He was free to roast millies under the stars, and he is free to ride the broad back of slow moving bulls, and he can take the bulls and the herd to the field for the grazing. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. Here he is telling that as long as I obeyed my father and I obeyed my customs of my tribe, that time there is not trouble from the laws of man or God. Here he is telling, when I am obeying my father and in which tribe I live, I obey that tribe rules also. So there is no problem to me. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. When I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me. Here Nelson Mandela is telling that when I grow old or I discovered as a young man, that time he understood that is my boyhood freedom was an illusion. Already they have taken my freedom from me, that I began to hunger for it. Already we have studied in previous para that there is Nelson Mandela was telling that I was not born with a hunger to be free. But now in this time he is telling that I began to hunger for it. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself. When Nelson Mandela was a student, that time he wanted a freedom for himself only. Transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night. Here he need freedom for himself so he can able to stay night outside. He need a freedom that nobody should ask him or nobody should stop him to stay outside at night, read what I pleased and go where I choose. Here he need a freedom that where he want to go and he can go, and whatever he want to study or read, so he can study or read in a free mind. Nobody should ask about me that what I am reading or where I am going. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I yearned for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, and later for having a basic life and just for himself but for everyone in Johannesburg. They had to struggle for having a such life of earning my keep. I can earn money in a peaceful way, of marrying and having a family, having a peaceful and marriage life and basic amenities, the freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. There should be no any kinds of obstacle to live such life. In a South Africa, there should be no any kinds of problem to live a such life to the people. Everyone has access to where law and order exist. But then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. Here Nelson Mandela is telling that when I realized that I am not free, but in South Africa, my brother and sister were not free. It means in South Africa, those people are black, they are not living as a freedom life. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. A word curtailed means to make something shorter or smaller, or in a simple way we can say to reduce. In South Africa, it is not my freedom reduce, but those who look like me. It means black people, their freedom also reduce. That is when I joined the African National Congress. When my people freedom reduced in South Africa, that's why I joined ANC, African National Congress. And that is when the hunger of my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. Before I need the freedom of hunger, but now it changed to my people of freedom of hunger. Before I need the freedom of hunger, but in this time it is changed. But in this time I need the freedom of hunger for my people, for the black people in South Africa.